Good afternoon and welcome to the New York City Council hearing of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection. At this time, can everybody please silence your cell phones? If you wish to testify, please go to the back of the room to fill out a testimony slip. At this time and going forward, no one is to approach the dais. I repeat, no one is to approach the dais. Chair, we are ready to begin.
Good afternoon. I'm Julie Menin, Chair of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection. I want to welcome everyone to today's hearing on intro numbers 428, 494, 877, 1193, 1294, and 1332, as well as resolution number 499. I first of all want to recognize my colleague, Councilmember Abreu, who is here with us, and I'll recognize additional colleagues as they come in. Today's hearing covers a number of bills. Intro number 428, sponsored by Councilmember Sanchez, would require construction sites to post information regarding how workers can file a wage theft complaint, as well as other information about wage theft. Intro number 494, sponsored by Councilmember Brannan, would prohibit the imposition of late fees for self-storage units. Introduction number 877, sponsored by Councilmember Holden, would clarify that the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection shall enforce a consumer protection law against plumbers, electricians, and other home improvement professionals, even though these professionals are not required to obtain a DCWP home improvement contractor license. Introduction number 877 would also establish better communication between agencies that regulate home repair businesses by requiring DCWP to notify the Department of Buildings whenever someone licensed by DOB is found guilty of violating consumer protection laws. Introduction number 1193, sponsored by Councilmember Salam, would require home improvement contractors to disclose to owners in writing whether there are any permits foreseeably required to perform the work specified in the contract. If permits are potentially required, they would have to specify which permits may be needed, what actions need to be taken to obtain them, and how owners can verify their status. The bill would also require DOB to conduct an outreach and education campaign on the watch list of contractors who have performed work without the required permits. Introduction number 1294, sponsored by Councilmember Nurse, would require DCWP to create a website containing publicly available identifying information of all individuals that have been convicted of committing larceny by deed theft in New York City. Introduction number 1332, sponsored by Councilmember Brannan, would prohibit app-based delivery services from deactivating app-based delivery workers unless the deactivation is due to just cause or bona fide economic reasons. Resolution number 499, sponsored by Councilmember Joseph, calls on the United States Congress to pass and the President to sign the Protecting Consumers from Deceptive AI Act. And now I'm going to read statements by a number of the bill sponsors, so bear with me. Okay, this is a statement by Councilmember Yusuf Salam on his bill, Intro 1193-2025. I want to extend my sincere gratitude to the 37 co-sponsors and to the chair, including the public advocate. The fact that this bill has earned a supermajority of support demonstrates just how important it is to protect homeowners, tenants, and workers alike. This bill is about transparency, accountability, and safety. Too often, New Yorkers enter into home improvement contracts without full knowledge of what permits are required or how to verify them. This leaves homeowners exposed to fines and delays, undermines the structural safety and long-term durability of the work, and puts tenants at risk when construction is done without oversight. At the same time, too often landlords cut corners, chasing higher profit margins or reducing renovation costs by circumventing the permit process and hiring unlicensed workers, which undermines city regulations and can force families and tenants to live in hazardous and dangerous conditions. We don't have to look too far for real-world examples. In central Harlem at 162 West 132nd Street, the landlord illegally carved out a basement apartment without permits or a C of O. At 66 St. Nicholas Place, landlords installed gas-powered dryers in a cellar laundry facility without permits or safety approvals. Inspectors found dangerous, untested gas lines and hoses, hazards that could have caused a fire or an explosion. In both cases, DOB stepped in, levying penalties, issuing stop work orders, and issuing a corrective action. These stories are not outliners, they are warnings about what happens when the permitting system is bypassed. And tragically, we know the consequences can be even worse, such as in Brooklyn, where a worker was killed when the floor of a building collapsed. In another case, a 5-year-old girl was crushed to death by an illegally built granite fence constructed without permits, engineering review, or safety oversight. Courts later found that project to be imminently perilous to life, and the contractor was convicted of criminally negligent homicide. These heartbreaking cases are stark reminders that failing to comply with the permitting is not just a paperwork issue, it's literally a matter of life and death. The legislation addresses the problem from both directions. On the one hand, it holds contractors accountable by requiring them to provide homeowners with clear written information on what permits are needed. That empowers consumers, uplifts contractors who are licensed, and especially supports unionized labor who follow the rules. On the other hand, it holds landlords accountable by curbing the incentive to cut corners. Intro 1193 is a common sense measure. It empowers consumers, strengthens compliance, safeguards the structural integrity of our building, and reinforces the value of skilled unionized work in our city's construction industry. I look forward to today's hearing, and I thank the chair and all my colleagues for their partnership. Okay, now I'm going to read the statement from Councilmember Sanchez on her bill. While wage theft is illegal in our city, workers across the 5 boroughs still face exploitation when city protections are not clearly communicated on the ground. Intro 428 aims to close that gap with a focus on construction workers who are acutely vulnerable to this practice. By requiring that wage theft notices be posted on site at construction sites, we can equip workers with the knowledge needed to prevent wage theft and file complaints. I'm committed to collaborating with our partners at DCWP and all stakeholders to ensure workers are protected and agencies have the tools they need to prevent wage theft. A statement from Councilmember Joseph. Thank you, Chair. Today I reaffirm my support of Reso 499, calling on Congress to pass the Protecting Consumers from Deceptive AI Act. As artificial intelligence becomes increasingly prevalent in our daily lives, New Yorkers deserve robust protections against deceptive AI practices that can harm consumers and undermine trust in technology. Our constituents are already encountering AI in countless ways, from customer service chatbots to personalized advertisements to financial services. Without proper safeguards, bad actors can exploit AI to deceive consumers, manipulate purchasing decisions, or spread misinformation. We have a responsibility to anticipate emerging threats to consumer welfare. Today's resolution positions New York City as a leader and innovator in advocating for this critical federal legislation. By urging Congress to act, we amplify the voices of millions of New Yorkers who deserve transparent and honest interactions with AI technology. And any other statements? That's it. Okay, wonderful. So that is it for the statements. Okay, so I'm now going to call on representatives of the administration to testify. We'll be hearing testimony from Carlos Ortiz, Deputy Commissioner for External Affairs at DCWP, Elizabeth Wagner, Deputy Commissioner, Office of Labor and Policy Standards, Andrew Schwenk, DCWP Associate General Counsel. I'll turn it over to Committee Counsel to administer the affirmation.
Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth before this committee, and to respond honestly to council member questions?
I do.
I do.
I do.
Good afternoon, Chair Menon, Councilmember Abreu, and members of the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection. My name is Carlos Ortiz, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of External Affairs at the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. Today, I am joined by Deputy Commissioner for the Office of Labor Policy and Standards, Elizabeth Wagner, and Associate General Counsel, Andrew Schwenk. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before the committee today on these bills related to our consumer and worker protection efforts. DCWP is a key resource for all New Yorkers, providing fundamental consumer and worker protections and financial empowerment programming across the 5 boroughs. We are dedicated to ensuring that consumers who have been exploited or deceived have recourse, that workers have a passionate defender of their rights, and that all New Yorkers have the support they need to improve their financial health. These protections and resources are available to all New Yorkers, regardless of immigration status. Under Commissioner Mayuga's leadership, we have delivered more than $1.9 billion back to New Yorkers through our protections, policies, and programming. Since our landmark consumer protection law was enacted in 1969, we have been the nation's leading municipal consumer protection agency. For nearly 60 years, we have consistently leveraged our authority to protect New Yorkers from deceptive business practices and secure financial restitution for consumers whose rights have been violated in the marketplace. In the last few years, our efforts have played a role in securing more than $28 million in financial restitution and debt relief for consumers. DCWP's licensing laws and rules, paired with robust education outreach, play a critical role in safeguarding our city's consumers and maintaining industry standards across more than 45,000 businesses in 40 license categories. Recently, we implemented a new licensing category for the hotel industry. We testified in support of strengthening consumer protection laws in the storage warehouse industry, and we adopted new rules to improve the consumer restitution process in the home improvement industry. Under these new rules, we simplified the process for consumers to receive compensation from the Home Improvement Contractor Business Trust Fund. And since adopting these new rules in 2023, we have approved 180 claims distributing nearly $1.7 million to consumers. And with the more recent expansion of our rules, more consumers will now be able to receive compensation and in greater amounts. Alongside our work in the consumer protection space, we are a national leader in the enforcement of worker protections, serving as the city's central resource for workers in New York City. DCWP enforces key municipal workplace laws that provide workers with greater stability in their schedules, incomes, and jobs. We ensure compliance with these essential workplace laws and secure restitution for workers who have faced violations in the workplace. And in fact, in the past 3 years, nearly 4 years, we've been able to secure $50 million in restitution for workers. Our Fair Work Week Just Cause law is an integral protection prohibiting the firing or reduction in hours of a worker by more than 15% without just cause. This law has provided the agency with a deep understanding of the ramifications of unjust firings and the importance of stable employment. Our enforcement of protections for food delivery workers also contributes to our depth of knowledge about the app delivery industry and the job insecurity these workers face. And recently, we updated our Worker Bill of Rights, a comprehensive guide for workers on their rights in the workplace, spanning city, state, and federal labor laws. In June 2023, the city announced the nation's first of its kind minimum pay rate for food delivery workers that APPS classifies as independent contractors, a significant advancement of worker rights in New York City in the 21st century. To implement this groundbreaking protection, DCWP conducted a comprehensive study of the industry and considered thousands of comments from delivery workers, apps, restaurants, researchers, elected officials, and other members of the public. Before the minimum pay rate was implemented, these workers received poverty-level compensation for their work, averaging $5 per hour before tips. After the apps began paying the minimum pay rate, tens of thousands of workers saw their pay increase dramatically. Since then, the minimum pay rate has increased to a rate of $21.44 per hour. And as a result, apps have paid workers over $1 billion more than they would have without the minimum pay rate. This money not only supports some of the lowest wage families in New York City, but also goes directly back into our local economy. The agency will continue to stand shoulder to shoulder with delivery workers and ensure their rights to fair and dignified pay are protected. Turning to today's legislation, Introduction 428 will require those who are required to post construction permits to post information developed by DCWP on how workers can file a wage theft complaint, as well as other information on worker rights related to wage theft under state law. We support this legislation. However, rather than create another distinct notice for businesses to post to the worksite, we recommend utilizing DCWP's new Worker Bill of Rights poster by requiring the permit holder to post this document. As always, we remain eager to partner with the Council on ways to educate New Yorkers on their rights in the workplace. Introduction 877 would clarify that DCWP shall enforce applicable consumer protection provisions against plumbers, electricians, and other such professionals. We support Council's intent to protect consumers from deceptive practices in New York City. However, the Consumer Protection Law, DCWP's signature law prohibiting deceptive business practices, already applies to all businesses, including those not required to be licensed as a home improvement contractor. Therefore, this amendment is unnecessary for DCWP to investigate claims against non-licensed businesses. We are supportive of the reporting outlined in the bill and would like to add clarifying language to streamline that tool. And we look forward to working with the Council and our colleagues at DOB on ensuring that information on violating businesses is shared collaboratively. Introduction 1193 would require home improvement contractors to disclose whether there are any permits foreseeably required to perform the work specified in the contract. And if so, which permits are required, how to obtain the permits, and how owners can verify the status of any permits. We support Council's efforts to better regulate this industry and believe this legislation will provide more visibility and will further assist consumers when working with home improvement contractors. We defer to the Department of Buildings regarding the watch list that is in the legislation. Introduction 1294 would require DCJP to create a website containing publicly available identifying information of all individuals that have been convicted of committing larceny by deed theft in New York City. While we understand that this is an important issue impacting communities across the city, we do not have any authority related to deed theft enforcement, nor to the conviction of individuals engaging in deed theft. As we have previously testified, there are better equipped agencies in the city that are able to provide assistance to victims of deed theft. And for example, the city's district attorney's offices have access to the information required by the bill. Introduction 494 would prohibit the imposition of late fees for self-storage units. We support this legislation. As we previously testified, further regulation in the storage warehouse industry is beneficial to consumers. However, we do have certain amendments, such as a longer implementation period, particularly as the council considers other legislative changes in this industry. For example, we recently testified in support of legislation sponsored by Chair Menon, Instruction 1290, that would include self-storage businesses in our storage warehouse license category. Such a protection should apply to the entire category, and we look forward to working with the council to further protect consumers utilizing self-storage warehouses. Finally, Instruction 1332 would prohibit app-based delivery services from deactivating app-based delivery workers unless due to just cause or bona fide economic reason. We strongly support this bill because arbitrary and unfair deactivations for app-based delivery workers are incredibly harmful to workers and their families. The protections in this bill will also make the dangerous jobs of delivery workers safer and will improve street safety for all New Yorkers. We routinely receive complaints from delivery workers about wrongful deactivation for issues outside of their control, like traffic conditions and other workplace dangers. For example, one worker reported he was deactivated when he was hit by a car and hospitalized. Another reported being deactivated when he was robbed on the job and as a result was late or unable to complete a delivery. Many other workers have reported unfair deactivations after one instance of late delivery due to factors beyond the worker's control and in spite of otherwise excellent job performance. We have provided an anonymized sample of worker narratives about deactivations as an appendix to this testimony. We would like to provide amendments to the bill to ensure that we are reducing arbitrary deactivations and strengthening the protections for workers. This includes a severance pay provision for workers to disincentivize arbitrary terminations, as well as provide workers with an essential financial lifeline in their time of need. We also recommend streamlined complaint and arbitration procedures and a reinstatement requirement for workers that apps lay off for non-performance-based reasons. We are excited to work with the council on this incredibly necessary protection for delivery workers. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before your committee on our essential work uplifting New Yorkers and today's legislation. We look forward to working with all of you to continue protecting New Yorkers from harm both in the workplace and marketplace. And I welcome any questions you may have for further discussion. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I have a number of questions, a lot of questions, but I'm going to turn it over first to my colleague, Councilmember Abreu.
Hello, nice to see everybody here today. I want to thank our chair for the flexibility of letting me ask questions before I have to go. Want to first ask, Commissioner, can you tell me how many resources you have for implementing Intro 1332 and how many resources you need to implement the veto bills that were overridden?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember. Currently in the division of the Office of Labor Policy and Standards, we have about 45 individuals. In our financial impact statement for Intro 1332, we are anticipating 34 new lines to implement the deactivation protections. And with respect to the bills 1135, 1133, we have previously testified on the record that we require 20 additional lines to implement those bills. And I would like to pass it over to my colleague, Deputy Commissioner Wagner, to describe how we implement these protections and the processes behind those.
Sure. For the bills that were vetoed, which I believe was was part of your question, we urgently need new resources, both to implement a minimum pay rate, write a minimum pay rate, and the rules around that for the broader industry of apps that are going to be covered by the law. Once that's in place, we will need attorneys, investigators, and data scientists to be able to enforce the law. Obviously, these are very data-heavy cases, pulling the app's data to be able to evaluate whether they're in fact paying the minimum pay rate, and then calculating underpayments when they're not, which requires the expertise of labor economists and data scientists, investigators to interview workers, and attorneys to bring those cases in court if necessary and negotiate resolutions. So very important to actually realize a minimum pay rate to be appropriately staffed for it.
I want to pivot to 1332. What are the current protections available to delivery workers who are deactivated from an app-based delivery service?
Well, currently there are no protections available, and I think it's why this legislation is so important. I also think it's why we have a full house today of workers and other stakeholders that are incredibly invested in this legislation. It is, again, to reiterate, an incredibly important protection. Deactivations, and especially in arbitrary and unfair deactivations, are financially devastating for workers, and this is a key protection.
Does DCWP receive complaints from app-based delivery workers related to deactivation? If so, how many has it received so far?
So we don't have necessarily a complaint code that is able to distinguish specifically deactivation complaints. That said, we did do a manual review, and over the past couple of years, we've received upwards of 180 complaints, which is significant. So yes, we do have some of that fact-based finding.
Do you find that the volume of complaints changed after minimum pay was implemented?
Yeah, let me throw it over to my colleague, Deputy Commissioner Wagner.
Not necessarily. I think some of the reasons that apps were giving workers changed, but we've been seeing this practice both before and after apps began paying the minimum pay rate, of workers coming to us saying that they were deactivated for no reason or after a single delivery was late.
Yeah, I kind of want to ask, what did you, based off of the complaints that you've received, what was the more likely reason for why workers were deactivated? Was it the timely, whether or not deliveries were done timely, whatever other reasons you may have as well, please add on.
Thank you, Councilmember. I think, in some of the narratives that we have in our appendix, oftentimes it is for issues that are outside the worker's control, delays that are perhaps a delay in delivery that is due to traffic issues, other workplace safety issues. And so I think that's really the crux of what we're seeing, things that are outside the worker's control and they're punished for it. And additionally, I would note, I was reviewing testimony from labor economists such as James Parrott, and he, for example, noted in his testimony that from his perspective, he doesn't see a reason why apps would necessarily have to deactivate workers. It seems to be more apps engaging in an effort to punish workers and to disincentivize them or to push them away from important protections that the City Council has been enacting. So I think I would probably add those two pieces to your question.
Are the delivery workers deactivated temporarily or permanently?
It tends to happen permanently. What we hear from workers is that they're deactivated with very little explanation. Many people have reported to us that they tried to go through the app's procedure to appeal the deactivation, but got nowhere with that, and haven't been able to get back on.
In your testimony, you are strongly in support of this bill. What changes, if any, would you make to it?
Thank you for that question, Councilmember. I think ultimately we want to make sure that we're reducing deactivations as much as possible in the front end, building processes that give workers more power as well. So one key component of that is a severance pay addition we'd like to add to the bill. And I can throw it over to Liz to see if she's other pieces she wants to add to that.
Yeah, just reiterating that we feel that severance pay is important, not only to give a lifeline to workers who are deactivated without cause, but also to disincentivize this from happening in the first place. What we really want to see is fewer deactivations, and we see severance as something that may actually incentivize apps to have better processes internally to not be deactivating people when there's really no reason at all to do it. We also have some thoughts that we can elaborate on and the redlining process for improving enforcement processes, improving the progressive discipline policy requirement, adding reinstatement in situations where there's a layoff. So a number of things to improve it, but the core bill, we're strongly supportive of it.
Do you?
Councilor, I would just like to add one point. I apologize.
You're good.
About a year ago, we testified in support of Instruction 276, which is deactivation protections for hire vehicle drivers. And in that instance as well, we also noted the importance of aspects of severance pay, as well as the additional streamlining of some of these procedures. So I just wanted to make sure that that was also elevated too.
Do you foresee the city or the apps building a system for appealing deactivations?
Yes, I think internal appeals and apps reviewing their decisions would be an important part of the process.
And if the apps were the one to lead this, right, what are the ways the agency plans to conduct oversight over that process and hold the apps accountable, or vice versa, if the agency leads, what kind of resources does DCWP need to help workers file appeal complaints and hold the apps accountable?
I think the answer depends on where the bill lands with respect to how enforcement happens. If the final version has DCWP doing investigations and enforcement, we are looking at over 30 new lines we would need to be able to achieve that. We do have some ideas to place the cost of enforcement on the apps through outside arbitration processes where outside arbitrators that are funded by the apps are the ones who are hearing these cases. I think we have ideas about how to make that work in a way that ensures that due process actually results. We can't have an arbitration situation that's hard for workers to access. It needs to be easy. It needs to be accessible. Workers' attorneys need to be paid through that process. And then obviously, as is currently in the bill, there need to be objective, transparent standards that arbitrators are applying so that workers are able to get put back to work when there wasn't just cause.
All right, I just want to say thank you so much to the panel for your hard work every single day. And also want to thank our chair, Menon. I've said this before and I'll say it again. She was my boss when she was the DCWP commissioner more than 10 years ago. And here we are. And so I'm glad that we're doing some big, important things here today. Thank you all.
Thank you, Councilmember Abreu. Really appreciate it, and appreciate your laser-like focus on these questions about the deactivation bill. I have some additional questions as well. So 30 new lines is what you're estimating you would need. And I know obviously we're hearing the bill, so the bill has not gone into effect yet, so I get that. But have you done sort of a new needs assessment and submitted that to the admin in anticipation of that, just to get ready for that?
We submitted this fiscal impact statement as a part of this hearing process that goes to our colleagues at OMB. I think ultimately, depending on where the bill lands, we will be able to assess again what new needs we'll make a discreet ask for if the bill passes.
Okay, terrific, thank you. And I know we've got a lot of speakers who are here to speak on this, so we're excited to hear your testimony. So, considering my colleague asked a lot of our questions on the deactivation, I'm going to go to some of the other pieces of legislation we're hearing today. So Intro 428, which is in relation to the posting of information related to wage theft at construction sites. How many complaints is the agency receiving on that topic?
So we do not have authority currently to enforce anything related to wage theft for employees. That is something that solely falls under state law or federal law. So it's not something that we track. We do get those complaints in our capacity as sort of central resource for workers, and we do give people referrals and explain what their rights are, and also screen those complaints to make sure there's not something in there that we do enforce, such as the right to paid safe and sick leave.
Are you passing those complaints directly on to the State Department of Labor?
What we do is give workers information about the different agencies that might be able to help them. So that's going to include the State Department of Labor, Federal Department of Labor, local DA's offices when it's a situation involving non-payment, and then also the State AG's office and the Labor Bureau.
I think that's incredibly important because I think that for many people, when there is an issue regarding wage theft, they're not sure who to turn to. Do you turn to the city? Do you turn to the state? And so I think that that's, the utmost importance is that we are doing that education piece. On intro number 494, in relation to prohibiting late fees for self-storage units, how many complaints has the agency received this year? And what is the nature of those complaints? And lastly, are consumers reporting issues related to late fees?
In general, we have received about 409 complaints since 2022 regarding storage warehouses. And those complaints, they range from topics such as increase in rates as well as deceptive practices. Give me one moment, please. Let me pass it over to my colleague, Andrew Schrank, who can provide more details about self-storage.
Yeah, I would just add to that, council member. Our current license category does not include self-storage, and so it's sometimes difficult to discern whether a complaint is about self-storage versus more traditional storage warehouses.
Right.
We do find when we review complaints that we do receive many about self-storage. That's, of course, why we have testified in favor of Intro 1290 to expand the license category to include those self-storage units. But I can say that we have seen some complaints about rates, late charges, or just deceptive pricing overall in the industry.
Okay. On Intro 1193, which is in regards to requiring home improvement contractors, which I know is like one of the top complaints the agency is always year in and year out receiving, that bill would provide information on required permits to owners and require public outreach and education on the watch list of contractors. So should home improvement contractors be aware of the permits potentially required to conduct work at the time of engagement?
Yes, we believe that we are supportive of this legislation. We believe home improvement contractors should be aware, and they should be disclosing that information to the consumer as well.
And how many complaints is the agency currently receiving about home improvement contractors related to unpermitted work or a lack of disclosure of permits prior to the work commencing?
I don't know if we have specific to those particular issues, but I would say in the home improvement contractor category, we've received close to 3,700 complaints since 2022.
Right. So it's a lot.
And those range from failure to provide a contract, failure to perform adequate services, and other deceptive practices such as overbilling.
And how is the agency collaborating with DOB on the watch list of contractors?
Currently, we haven't had a consistent stream of communication with DOB on that current list of contractors. But I think our goal with the reporting mechanism in Councilmember Holden's bill is to establish a consistent reporting requirement that would give DOB all the information they would need on our home improvement contractor licensees and any violations they've been issued.
Okay, moving to Intro 1294 in relation to creating a website with information identifying individuals convicted of deed theft. Could you talk about any concerns you have on that with maintaining this deed theft conviction database as that bill is proposing?
Thank you, Chair. I would like to start by saying that that deed theft is obviously an important issue that is impacting homeowners and New Yorkers across the city. And we've certainly been to a number of hearings ourselves where we've gotten to see that testimony up front. I think ultimately for us, the issue here is that deed theft falls outside the purview of DCWP. And with respect to this legislation, I think things like the conviction of individuals for deed theft, larceny, really fall more into the camp of the district attorneys. So I think ideally we would be able to identify the appropriate agencies to work in this space.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, Intro 1332, which my colleague asked a number of questions about. So clearly, as your testimony states, you strongly support this bill. You mentioned some of the amendments. So you were prepared then to work, I assume, directly with the bill sponsor to get those amendments into the bill?
Yes, Chair. We look forward to working with the bill sponsor, central staff, to effectuate this bill.
And on the severance provision that you mentioned, what type of severance are you anticipating pushing for?
We're still going to be looking at that. There would be a few different factors involved in calculating it, most likely a sort of lump sum amount and then an amount based on time worked.
Okay, great. What I'm going to ask, because we have so many speakers that are here for that bill, is if one of you could stay to hear the testimony, I think would be incredibly helpful. Okay. Any other, no other colleagues. Okay, it's a quiet Friday here, I guess. All right, well, you're stuck with me. So that concludes agency testimony, and now we're going to move to the public hearing. Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair.
Absolutely.
Chair, if I
Thank
could
you so
mention
much.
one more thing,
Yeah,
actually,
please.
related to home improvement contractors. Andy, could you mention our National Floors case that we worked on?
Yeah, thank you so much, Carlos. We did just want to give a plug for a recent case that created a restitution fund. It was the case against National Floors Direct, and we did just want to make sure that any homeowners or anybody who's contracted with National Floors Direct, please visit our website. You may be eligible for restitution if you've done work with National Floors Direct and it was substandard or deceptive anyway. And that's currently open until February of 2026. So please come on by and see if you can.
That's really helpful to mention. We'll make sure then that we're getting that, disseminating that information as well. So thank you. If you want to send something over specific that we can help to push out,
Yes,
Yeah,
Chair.
absolutely.
we'd appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay, now we're going to move to the public comment. I now open the hearing for public testimony. I remind members of the public this is a formal government proceeding and that decorum shall be observed at all times. As such, members of the public shall remain silent at all times. The witness table is reserved for people who wish to testify. No video recording or photography is allowed from the witness table. Further, members of the public may not present audio or video recordings as testimony, but may submit transcripts of such recordings to the Sergeant at Arms for inclusion at the hearing record. If you wish to speak at today's hearing, please fill out an appearance card with the Sergeant at Arms and wait to be recognized. When recognized, you will have 2 minutes to speak on today's hearing topic. If you require translation services, you will have a total of 4 minutes for you to speak on today's hearing topic and for the interpreter to interpret your testimony. We ask that you pause frequently to give the interpreter enough time to interpret your testimony as you go. Today's hearing topic is Intro 428, 494, 877, 1193, 1294, 1332, and Resolution 499. If you have a written statement or additional written testimony you wish to submit for the record, please provide a copy of that testimony to the Sergeant at Arms. You may also email written testimony to testimony@council.nyc.gov within 72 hours of this hearing. Audio and video recordings will not be accepted. I'm now going to call the first panel. Thank you. First panel, Lacey Taber and Rebecca Lynch. Thank you. Two. Let me get the second. Oh. We're just going to have this storage person testify afterwards, and the rest is on deactivation. Oh, okay. Okay, welcome. And I just want to mention before we start, we've been joined by my colleague, Councilmember Krishnan.
All right. Good afternoon, Chairman, and thank you for holding this hearing today. I'm here representing Brooklyn Borough President Antonio Reynoso to provide testimony on two of the bills being heard today, 1294 and 1332. On 1294, deed theft is a pressing issue in Brooklyn, especially for older adult homeowners in the central and eastern parts of the borough. According to Brooklyn Legal Services, they can face scams such as refinancing scams, equity stripping, and foreclosure bailout loans. I'm trying to go quick. Homeownership is one of the most important pathways to building and sustaining wealth, and when scammers target these communities, they are trying to displace our neighbors and lock families out of homes that they've had for generations. As was mentioned, deed theft enforcement is primarily a state issue, but there is more that we can do locally. This bill would create a deed theft conviction database, and the point of this is really to compile information about convicted offenders in a way that's publicly accessible, so that people who think they might be the target of a scam can access this resource, and it could go a long way to informing the public about risk. There are three other pieces of legislation that the borough president would love to see the council hear or pass related to deed theft. One is Intro 67, which would require DOF to conduct outreach and education about deed fraud, and 782, which would require DOF to send information with property tax bills. Obviously, that's for another hearing, but we always want to mention it. We're also working on legislation to create a Tangled Title Fund, which would supplement the City Council's estate planning initiative and give homeowners legal assistance. Regarding 1332, delivery app's practice of locking out or deactivating their workers without cause undermines the council's efforts to protect them. Borough President Reynoso thanks the council for expanding minimum pay and worker protections, overriding the mayor's veto, and requiring new safety trainings. This bill is the next step in these efforts. I just have a really quick. Delivery workers deserve predictability in their wages and schedules, just like anyone would receive at a 9-to-5 job. It can also incentivize workers to buy and service legal and safe e-bike options. Additionally, these algorithms that prioritize workers who make multiple deliveries and/or complete them quickly, incentivizes practices that endanger the workers and everyone who uses our streets. We must continue to hold the corporations accountable who own these apps for treating their workers with dignity and keeping them and the public safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Lynch. I serve as Deputy Director for Workers' Rights for Comptroller Brad Lander. Thank you to the Committee on Consumer and Worker Protection and to Chair Julie Menin for the opportunity to testify today. I'm here to speak in support of Intro 1332, introduced by Councilmember Justin Brannan, which prohibits the wrongful deactivation of app-based delivery workers. Today, tens of thousands of deliveristas who work in grueling conditions and whom we cheered during the height of the pandemic are subjected to unjust termination without legal requirements around warning, cause, or a fair appeals process. These deactivations cause chaos and economic hardship in the lives of delivery workers and their families, many of whom rely on these earnings as their sole source of income. The Council has made tremendous strides in regulating the app-based delivery industry, but there are two reasons why enacting deactivation protections would be essential, the missing piece, to shore up the Council's previous delivery worker legislation. First, regarding the minimum pay law, which Comptroller Lander sponsored when he was in the Council, deactivation protections are needed to protect deliveristas from algorithmic exploitation. New algorithmic systems for on-time delivery are being used to rate and deactivate workers with little or no chance of appeal. Workers are expected to make more trips more quickly while on the clock. When these workers are then delayed by conditions beyond their control, dangerous weather, injury, etc., they are deactivated. The second reason is to protect workers from retaliation for asserting their rights or refusing unsafe trips. In 2023, when DCWP began enforcement of on-time payment, many workers who filed complaints were soon found to be deactivated by the apps with no process for appeal. The integrity of the Council's thoughtful workers' rights legislation should not be so easily undermined by app companies' ability to deactivate workers who speak up for their rights. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And our next panel is actually just one person who's here on the self-storage bill, so we're going to call him now, James Coakley, and then we'll go to deactivation.
Thank you, Chair Menin and the rest of the panel. My name is James Coakley, here on behalf of the New York State Self-Storage Association. New York State Self-Storage is opposed to this proposed bill that would amend the Administrative Code of the City of New York. Section 182 of the New York State lien law statute provides very specific language that needs to be included in the contract known as an occupancy agreement relative to late and/or other fees. Portion taken from the state statute, an occupancy agreement must contain an itemization of other charges imposed or which may be imposed in connection with the occupancy, a description of each such charge, whether the charge is mandatory or optional, and the amount of each charge expressed in dollars. Anyone renting a self-storage unit is provided with an occupancy agreement from the storage operator. The agreement lists charges, including late fees, the amount of the fees, when the fees would be imposed. The consumer knows far in advance what these particular conditions are. Furthermore, the occupancy agreement is a month-to-month agreement between the operator and the occupant. The occupant may cancel the agreement at any time. There is no long-term obligation. Consumers and small businesses can leave hassle-free. It is our belief that this is the ultimate in consumer choice and flexibility. It is the belief of the association that this proposed amendment is discriminatory in nature and in conflict with the state statute. There are countless private businesses that charge late or similar fees for non-payment or late payment for goods and services that have been provided. In addition, the vast majority of New York State agencies also charge such fees. Excerpt from my recent water bill. Billed amounts unpaid by the due date are charged a late interest rate until paid. So it's not just a late fee, it's actual interest that continues to compound. Reiterating the state's association's opposition to this proposal, we certainly appreciate your time today. We have worked with the DCWP on a number of language. Your bill intro 1290 for one. We have no issue with a licensure.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you to wrap it up,
Okay.
please.
Yep. So we're just here to keep a dialogue.
Got it.
There seems to be a lot of
Okay,
melding
I'm
of
sorry, we have a
storage
lot of
and
speakers, so I'm
warehousing.
going to stick to the 2 minutes.
No
But thank
problem.
you very much, and please submit your
Thank you, Chair. We have, and we've submitted
Great.
electronically.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, I'm going to be very tight on the time, so do not take it personally. Our next panel, Antonio Salas, Alejandro Grajales, William Medina, Ligia Goalpa. Okay, thank you. Okay, please begin while we wait for the other speakers, just in the interest of time. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to get started. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak and holding a hearing on this important legislation. So my name is Ligia Hualpa. I represent the Workers' Justice Project en Los Deliveristas Unidos. And we're here to testify in support of Intro 1332. And this bill is one of the most important pieces of legislation that at the moment exists for delivery workers. The people you see behind me, many of them have been deactivated. They've been fired. So deactivation is a form of firing workers without notice, without cause, and without an appeal process. One click from Uber, Grubhub, DoorDash can mean losing your only job that you rely as a delivery worker. Most of the time, there's no just cause, no reason for deactivation. And there is no real due process. These companies use algorithm systems to track every delivery, measure speed, calculate acceptance rate, push delivery workers to complete as many deliveries as possible, without no regard to safety. The apps penalize by creating multiple ways of deactivation. What this has meant for many workers has been meaning losing the only jobs that they have. And the reason we're advocating for this piece of legislation is not just about job safety. It's about job security. It's also about job safety. What we would love to see, especially in 1332, is not just having a just appeal process, but we want the companies to have a fair, to be able to not be able to fire workers without 15-day notice, provide evidence of any wrongdoing, and most important thing is being able to give their jobs back whenever they file an appeal process. This piece of legislation is about street safety. It's deliveristas who are dealing with the pressure in our streets, and we're hoping to count with your support to pass this important legislation.
Great, thank you.
And I'm going to be translating for him.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Ok, buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Antonio Solís. Soy un orgulloso deliverista de Astoria, líder de los Deliveristas Unidos y miembro de Workers' Justice Project. He vivido en Nueva York durante 6 años y siempre me he sentido orgulloso de hacer un trabajo que amo. Entregar comida para los neoyorquinos. Para mí el trabajo del delivery es una profesión que merece respeto, pago justo y protecciones, y por eso estoy aquí hoy. Me uní a los Deliveristas Unidos no solo porque enfrentaba explotación, sino porque quiero que este trabajo sea tratado como una verdadera profesión, con protecciones contra represalias y un trabajo justo para todos los trabajadores. Desde que ganamos el pago mínimo, las aplicaciones han respondido con represalias, usando las desactivaciones y los bloqueos como herramientas para hacer que este trabajo sea inseguro y evitar pagar toda la hora trabajando o conectada. Por ejemplo, DoorDash castiga a los trabajadores con calificaciones bajas por circunstancias fuera de nuestro control, llegar a un restaurante, cuando la orden se retrasa, demoras causadas por accidentes, no aceptar todos los pedidos o situaciones que simplemente están fuera de nuestras manos. Estas penalizaciones pueden llevar a la desactivación, dejándonos sin nuestro sustento. Incluso cuando intentamos apelar el proceso, a menudo es automatizado. Un algoritmo envía un mensaje genérico que los niega la oportunidad de explicar nuestra situación, nuestras vidas en las calles, haciendo deliveries por una computadora, no por un ser humano. Somos trabajadores, dependemos de este trabajo para pertenecer a nuestras familias. Y también necesitamos respeto y que las aplicaciones no nos vean como robots, sino como personas que sentimos. Todos los días salimos a la calle y no tenemos protecciones contra las desactivaciones. Salimos en la nieve, en la lluvia, en el agua, y las aplicaciones nos piensan que somos unos robots. Gracias.
Yeah. So my name is Antonio Solis. I'm a proud member of Los Deliveristas Unidos. I'm a deliverista from Astoria, and I'm here specifically to support Intro 1332. I joined Los Deliveristas not only because I face exploitation, but I want this job to be treated as a true profession with justice and dignity and protections against retaliation. Since we want minimum pay, the app have retaliated against us, using deactivation and lockouts as tools to make this job unsafe. For example, DoorDash punishes workers with low ratings for circumstances beyond our control, arriving at a restaurant late or when the order is late, delays caused by accidents, or for not accepting every order, or situations that are simply out of our hands. The penalties can lead to deactivations. Every time we try to appeal, the process is automated. An algorithm sends a generic message denying the opportunity to explain the situation. Our lives on the streets are being decided by a computer, not by a human being. We are workers. That's why I'm asking City Council to guarantee deactivation protections and prioritize Intro 1332. Our safety, the safety of every New Yorker, depends on passing this legislation. We deserve rights, we deserve job security, and we deserve safety in our streets.
Okay, it's all right. We can't in the chambers. You can do this. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is William Medina. I have been living in New York for the past year, and I've been working as a delivery worker for the past 6 years with DoorDash, Relay, Uber, and even Panda. I worked through the pandemic in the Lower East Side and East Village. While many people could stay home, I had no choice but to be out there, serving New Yorkers and risking my own safety and health for this city. In 2021, I joined Los Deliveristas Unidos and the Worker Justice Project because I was fed up with the injustice I experienced on the job. It made me angry to see apps paying less than minimum wage and treating us as less than a human. My only way to fight back was to join these organizations and take the courage to challenge multi-billion-dollar app companies. We organized and won minimum pay, a major victory that ensured we are compensated fairly. But since then, the activation has been used to retaliate against us, punish us, and pressure us to work faster. The app pushes us to make more deliveries and take unnecessary risk on the streets just to avoid being fired. I'm not just a delivery worker, I'm also an organizer on the front lines, helping workers appeal on just deactivation and lockouts. I have witnessed how algorithms design our futures and our ability to stay in this industry. The current appeal process is not fair. It is not designed to support workers dealing with the real challenge of the streets: bike thefts, restaurant delays, accidents, or weather conditions that slow down deliveries. The companies don't care about creating a fair appeal process. To them, we are unjust replaceable numbers. The activation has become a crisis in this industry, putting our community at the edge of poverty and unemployment. That is why I am here today to support Intro 1332. We need protection from unjust deactivation. This law must guarantee a 15-day notice before deactivation, a real human review process for appeals, protection from being deactivated for things beyond our control, and requirement for app response
Okay,
within
I'm just going to
24
ask you to
hours for
wrap up,
workers.
please.
All right.
And then you can submit your testimony
All right. All right.
to the
Thank you.
Sergeant at Arms.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
My name is Balde Mamadou Sello. I've been living in New York for the past 2 years and have been working as a delivery worker for the past year with DoorDash and Uber, mainly in the Lower East Side and East Village. I am a proud member of Workers Justice Project and a leader of Los Deliverista. I recently joined as an organizer committed to build unity and solidarity among Latino and West African deliveristas, so that together we can fight the greed and exploitation of these multi-billionaire companies. Entering this industry for the first time is very expensive. I could not afford to buy my own bike, so I started renting my bike with Joko at a rate of $344 per month. Every day I navigate the crowded street of New York, facing real risk on the job, slippery winter street, restaurants that kick us out and often waiting outside in the cold, all to make ends meet and pay rent and buy food. I have already enjoyed this work, traveling the city, delivering for food, but this job has become unsustainable. The NYPD target us with criminal summonses, and the app punish us with deactivation, lockout, and unfair schedule system. I'm here today because I'm tired of seeing my colleague, especially West African community, lose their job, which for many can also mean losing their home. People in New York often complain about delivery workers traveling fast. We understand the concern, but too often we have no choice. We must take the risk to deliver quickly, often on an impossible time frame. To avoid losing the only job we have, deactivation is a huge problem for our community because this work is how we survive. That's why I'm here today representing my community and as a leader to advocate for Intro 1332. All we are to ask for fairness is real process where we can appeal to interact with a human being, not an algorithm, decide our case, and where app delivery
Okay,
cannot
I'm just going to ask you
deactivate
to wrap up,
us
please.
without any investigation.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alejandro Grajales, and I have been an app delivery worker for 10 years. And I am an organizer with the Worker Justice Project. For the past decade, I have worked for Grubhub, DoorDash, and Relay. I have delivered through rain and snow, facing all kinds of dangers, by robberies, accidents on slippery roads, traffic crimes, and more. Let's not forget that delivery workers die at higher rates than almost any other industry. Yet, we continue to take this risk because of our families, because this job pays our rent, our bills, and puts food on the table. Recently, I was deactivated by Grubhub for inactivity, but the truth is they didn't allow me to schedule hours. When I appealed, it was denied. This is the reality for so many workers who live with an invisible fear, the fear of being blocked, deactivated, or punished by a ghost boss, the algorithm. I was also deactivated by DoorDash for taking longer to make a delivery from Astoria to Roosevelt Island. The bridge connecting the island with the Queens had just opened, and I had to wait about 15 minutes. Even though I called customer service and the customer to explain the delay, the company still punished me and deactivated my account. I was fired without notice, without the opportunity to appeal, and punished for something beyond my control. This is the reality for 80,000 delivery workers in New York. I lost my job even though I tried to log in hundreds of times, even for just a few hours. This is not just about me. It is about thousands of delivery workers who face this unfair system every day. As a leader of Los Deliveristas Unidos and organizer with the Worker Justice Project, I urge the City Council to pass Intro 1332 as soon as possible. We need protections for unfair deactivation. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I have a couple questions. So, in general, what type of information, if any, is being given to workers prior to deactivation?
None.
And
You mean in terms of the rules of their contract?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
deactivated without any prior notice?
Yes, they simply do not give any prior notice. They just simply lock you out of the app and send you an email that you've been fired for violating any section in their contract, which is like about 40 pages, and many often they don't even get the copy of the contract. One of the most common reasons that we have seen is called trip fraud length, which means that they're deactivating or firing you for taking, according to the app, too long to make that delivery. And like they were saying, sometimes deliveries are delayed because delays in a restaurant. There's raining, there's traffic, all these issues that are beyond workers' control, and even they make the attempt to call customer service, they communicate to the customer, the apps still fire them. Most of the people behind me, they've been fired in the last 3 months. They lost the only job without prior notice, often in the middle of a shift, and without the opportunity to appeal. All DoorDash, they do have a appeal process, for instance, but they don't really have it because even you submit the complaint, they only send you an automated message saying, sorry, we will not consider a reopening your account. Grubhub doesn't have an appeal process for New York City specifically. And Uber has an appeal process that is automated, it's not done by a human being, it's done by a machine, and the message is the same regardless of the situation.
So when a worker is receiving, when they're locked out of the app and they're deactivated, are they also receiving a termination notice at the same time?
They don't receive the termination notice right away. They're simply locked out of the app, and then they take like 2-3 days to send an email that says that you're the reason. They never explain the reason. They just simply say you commit fraud, but they don't explain what kind of fraud. They don't explain the reason. They don't show documentation, and they don't even give the opportunity for the worker to say, listen, I was delayed because there was traffic. Or one of the reasons that you will hear today is that they recently deactivated about more than 100 deliveristas from Grubhub, mostly from the Bangladeshi community, for logging in their accounts in multiple phones. What the Grubhub said is they were using 2 phones to log on. What they don't know is that deliveristas have to use 2 phones in order to work from 7 a.m. to midnight. So they lost their job for logging on in their only 2 phones because the company didn't know that deliveristas, you have to use 2 phones in order to work 12 hours a day.
The thing, and there are many things that are concerning me, but one thing that is really top of mind is deactivation based on what the apps are saying is a
trip length fraud.
Right. Because that is really putting the delivery workers and pedestrians in a very dangerous situation. And from a safety perspective, we can't allow that. I believe that, and I'll go back to a situation we had in a different context, but with 15-minute delivery services like what GoPuff was doing, when there were companies like that were proliferating all around the city, I sent a cease and desist letter to GoPuff saying that I believe that they're violating the consumer protection law and that they've actually violated the state's nuisance law. Why? Because by insisting that and guaranteeing that delivery would be in 15 minutes, which is what they were doing at that time, it again is putting delivery workers and pedestrians in an unsafe situation. So here we're experiencing the exact same thing where workers are being penalized if they're not delivering in an expeditious fashion. And delivering in an expeditious fashion in a city like New York would then put pressure upon delivery workers to speed. Not their own fault, but then they're being put in a situation, we got to make this delivery as fast as possible, and then they're endangering themselves and they're endangering pedestrians, and we have a crisis on our streets right now on this very, very issue. So I'm incredibly concerned on this particular topic and would ask that you submit to the committee any materials you have about workers that are being deactivated for this very reason. I'd like to see that, and so ask that you send that to us right away.
Yeah, and some of the testimonies today, in their testimonies, they brought copies, and we will be submitting copies of the actual email of the company with this specific violation, which is trip fraud for Uber, and for Grubhub, they call it fraudulently trying to increase their minimum pay. Because, as you know, every time a worker is making that delivery, the app has to pay. So in order to avoid paying all the hours, they simply fire a worker if they're taking more than what they're expected.
Understood. I mean, we're trying to improve safety on our streets, and this is doing the exact opposite. Okay, Councilmember Krishnan, I know you have questions.
Thank you so much, Chair Menon. I'm sure this may have come up before, and I apologize if I missed it earlier in the hearing. But as you all know, this is very similar to the taxi for-hire vehicle context, where I have a bill that we are moving on. And in that context, there's no notice to drivers on the apps before they're deactivated or terminated. There's no proper procedure in place before the deactivation. And then after the fact, they have to challenge that deactivation once it's already been done. The current process that exists has the app companies as the judge and jury. So my question to you all is that the same thing? And it sounds like it is in this context too. Am I correct to say there is no prior notice given? There is no process prior to the termination, which is in my view, and for everyone, I think for all delivery workers, the ultimate step. That's your livelihood that is compromised without prior process, without prior notice. Once a decision is made, the burden, to the extent there is an appeals process, the burden is on the deliveristas to then challenge a decision that was already made. And on top of that, it sounds like the apps are the prosecutor, judge, and jury in these situations. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, and that's why we want to make sure that what 1332 does, very similar to what the bill that you're sponsoring does, but specifically we want to make sure that they create their own rules, right? They kind of set up their own rules on how deliveristas are supposed to do this. So one of the things we want 1332 is set up standards. For instance, the apps cannot deactivate because workers are deciding to prioritize their safety, or there is delays in the restaurants, or they decided not to accept certain deliveries because it's too far, because they have to cross the bridges. So we want to make sure that not only we create an appeal process, not only that we actually have the agency be the agency investigating this appeal process. We're saying, I think, very similar. We want to make sure there's 15-day notice before the deactivation happens. If the company feels that the worker has deceived the company, they should be able to provide evidence, especially because they do collect everything. They have all this new data and new things that they've been installing, even tracking systems in their apps. And then the other one that is more important, I think, for a worker, I really appreciate what the CWP were saying, like they're trying to get compensation. But to be honest, for a deliverista, not losing their job is more important than trying to get $2,000, $3,000 compensation. So we want to make sure that, yes, compensation is important, if especially they were deactivated for 3, 4, 6 months. But most of our community, the deliverista communities, they want their jobs back. This is their lifeline. If you talk to most of this was the only job that they have to provide to their families. And many of them will tell you, finding a new job in this economy in New York City, it's really hard. And most of them will tell you, like, they do everything the company have said them to do, and they still get deactivated. So yes, we want to create not only a fair process, prior notice, evidence, but we also want to create a standards in industry. As you said, council member, they shouldn't be, we should create a policy that they cannot deactivate because a deliverista decides to take the necessary time to make that delivery safely, or because they prioritize their own livelihoods over that delivery, or because the restaurant was late.
Sure, and just 2 more questions, Chair, if that's okay. One question, you mentioned before that the reasons for deactivations are not typically shared with delivery workers. So I would take it also that the evidence to support the deactivation, is that ever shared in the process with the delivery workers?
No, and I have a specific instance, I know we have, but for instance, sometimes the customers accuse that the food was stolen, right? And in the app, the company actually forces the deliverista or requires the deliverista to take a picture of them handling food to the consumer. And that picture is done on the app. And even if the consumer receiving the food can say, oh, I didn't receive the food, so they avoid paying the meal, the worker gets deactivated. And then often the worker is like, I send the picture. The company has the picture that I handled the food. There was another deliverista that took a picture that he was in an accident. He actually, one of the deliveristas will be speaking to you, he got injured in a rainy day. He still delayed 15, 20 minutes because he had to get better in order to make that delivery. After he made that delivery that was 20 minutes late, went to the hospital and called customer service saying, I was late because I was at the hospital. I have the police report, I have pictures, I took a video. And customer service, it's automated not to hear a complaint, but just to make a decision of not creating an appeal process. So yes, they don't provide evidence, and this is why we want to make sure that there is a fair appeal process, that it's human and signified for deliveristas.
And finally, just what percentage of deliveristas are reinstated after they're deactivated, if there's any? Do you have any sense at all of how many are actually able to overturn these decisions?
Si algunas de las desactivaciones han logrado reactivar y cuántas, puedes hablar de cuántas desactivaciones tenemos activamente ahorita, los casos.
We have more than 300 deactivations from the last 3 months, and they agreed to from Grubhub they agreed to reactivate more than 50 accounts right now, but it's not enough because people still are coming to our center. So I think it's not enough. We requested those companies to navigate in every case because they don't give us a specific explanation to deactivate all those accounts. They just use the technology, the AI, all those scientists from Silicon Valley just to send the same deactivation reason for all deliveristas across the city.
I just close by saying that, it's such a basic fundamental principle of American law that you don't take away someone's rights before proper process, procedure, and then you give them a chance to make their case. And so to me, I don't understand why we don't treat our workers' rights and their livelihoods the same way. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Great, thank you so much. And I want to mention we've been joined by Councilmember Brewer as well. I'm now going, thank you to this panel. Thank you so much. Oh, you've got, of course, yes.
One quick question would be, what kind of a process for protesting the actions of the apps would be appropriate? Obviously, if hopefully this bill passes and then the agency would do the rules and regulations, it might end up being in that situation. But how would we activate such a process, do you think? What would be a good way to do it?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been talking to the agency is that we need to create an appeal process that is not done by the companies in itself. I think Councilmember Shaker was saying, like, they make the rules of the game, they're the judges, and they're decision makers on those cases. We strongly believe that there needs to be an independent review process, and it needs to be done by a human being. It can be an automated message, especially because in the streets of New York City, there is all type of situations. There's all type of crises that are happening in our city, new policies that are being implemented to make our streets safe, or deliveristas are experiencing with new street designs that impacts how fast workers can travel across the city. So we want to make sure that the review process is done by a human being, that the agency is part of that investigation process. We want to make sure that the companies are the ones who are providing the evidence. If there is any wrongdoing that they found, that they are the ones who have to provide the evidence. And the most important thing is that they don't take 3 months to respond. There needs to be a 24-hour response notice to every appeal process, because that has been one of the issues with the 300 cases we file. We file 300 cases with Uber, Grubhub, and DoorDash, and most of those cases have been sitting down for 6 months, 7 months, and the company simply has refused to provide a response or evidence that there was any wrongdoing on those deactivations.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much to this panel. And I'll now call the next panel.
I'm going to do a translation for some of them, depending who they are, but just want to let you know.
Okay, well, the next panel is Hope Ledford and Freddie Goldstein. Okay, please begin.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Freddie Goldstein, and I oversee Uber's public policy here in New York City. I'll be speaking today about Intro 1332. While we believe our existing processes are fair, thorough, and often even encouraged by our regulator, we are not opposed to reasonable industry standards for deactivations, and in fact have worked closely with other jurisdictions to pass legislation. So far, in 2025, only 2% of delivery workers have faced a permanent deactivation in New York City monthly. These deactivations were largely due to fraudulent activity and theft. Many are the direct result of the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection advising platforms that deactivation was a key tool apps should use to reduce fraud. As part of their final rule regarding the Council's delivery worker minimum pay law, DCWP expressly told app companies, apps also have other tools to deter misconduct, for example, by deactivating the worker found to have engaged in it. Higher pay will also make the threat of deactivation more effective than it is at present, in that a worker has more to lose. DCWP effectively told the companies like Uber that had previously addressed evidence of fraud through docked pay and a warning to instead pay in full and immediately deactivate that worker. Before I wrap up, I want to quickly summarize 3 key areas of concern. The bill should focus on workers who face permanent deactivation. In recent years, the Council passed legislation to mandate workers are paid for all the time they spend logged onto the app, not just for deliveries made. As a result, it's critical that app companies are able to limit how many people can work on the app at one time. Otherwise, there would be nothing preventing people from turning on the app, sitting at home, and watching television while still getting paid for that time. The definition of deactivation must be drafted in a way that does not include temporary access restrictions. 1332.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you to wrap up and then submit the written testimony. And I have some questions, and I'm sure other members do as well, so we'll get into more issues. Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Hope Ledford, and I serve as Director of Civic Innovation Policy at Chamber of Progress, which is a tech coalition supporting policies that ensure that all Americans can benefit from innovation and technological progress. Our partners include platforms like Uber, DoorDash, and Grubhub, but they do not sit on our board or have a vote or veto on our positions, even when we disagree. We share the Council's commitment to fairness, for transparency, and for delivery workers. App-based couriers are an essential part of New York's economy, and they deserve due process. But we are concerned that Intro 1332, as drafted, risks unintended consequences that could undermine worker protections, public safety, and neighborhood businesses. First, the bill applies a just cause model designed for fixed shift jobs to app-based work, where couriers log on and off at will, choose which jobs to accept, and work without a centralized workplace, treating temporary pauses for things such as safety checks, account verification, fraud prevention, and normal market fluctuations as a result of the city's minimum pay standard, the same as a wrongful termination, would distort how these platforms operate and reduce reliable opportunities for workers. We believe that the definition of deactivation must be narrowly tailored to ensure platforms can protect safety while still providing consistent service to workers, businesses, and consumers. Second, the bill could delay urgent safety interventions. If a pedestrian reports dangerous riding or a restaurant flags abuse or harassment, platforms must be able to pause access immediately while reviewing the facts. If every brief hold is treated like a full deactivation, requiring weeks of notice, platforms may be forced to leave bad actors active, undermining the city's Vision Zero initiative and putting both workers and the public at risk. Thirdly, the disclosure requirements raise serious safety and privacy concerns. Mandating that customer complaints be shared back without strong protections risks retaliation against victims and discourages reporting, silencing voices, and undermining public trust in the delivery services. Finally, this bill would hurt restaurants and small businesses, many of them immigrant and minority owned, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so please submit the testimony. So I've got a number of questions. First, I really want to get to this issue of safety. If you're deactivating workers because they're not delivering in a fast enough fashion, how are you protecting the safety of both workers and pedestrians in the streets of New York?
Absolutely. I can obviously only speak for Uber's practices. We agree with you. We don't take into account the speed of the delivery, What we look at when there are complaints about how long a delivery has taken is the route that that worker took and whether it matches with the route that we recommended. Because of the DCWP pay rule, we do have to pay special attention to ensure that workers are taking the route that is recommended and not, for example, going out of the way to make the delivery.
Sorry, my mic is up. How are you determining that route? What, are you using GPS? What exactly? So you're using GPS to determine what route the worker should take?
Yes.
And that is in real time, so that if there is a road closure, if there is some other reason why the worker needs to go a different way, how is that being factored in?
Yes, so in theory, our map should guide the worker through a route that is the best route to take. But all of our decisions are done by humans. They're not automated. So in the case where we were looking at the route a specific worker took, we'd be able to see through GPS what that route was, and the person who's reviewing that case would be able to make an analysis about whether that was justifiable given that day and time.
And how many workers have been deactivated for that? What is the name of that category?
That would be considered fraud, and I don't have that data available.
No, the category where a worker is not delivering the delivery in the certain amount of time that is expected.
That's not a specific category, but that complaint might filter into a larger category of fraud if it was determined that we believed that worker was going out of their way to prolong that trip.
And how many are in that category?
I'll have to get you that data.
Okay, that's very important. But I still am troubled by how is it that you're able to determine whether or not a worker is changing the route because they need to change the route? I mean, how do you, like real-time conditions on the road?
We also alert workers when we've gotten a complaint of something like that and when they're at risk of being deactivated and then at the point of deactivation. So there's, in addition to our team analyzing the route, there's also an opportunity for the worker to put directly into the process in our app if there was some sort of construction or roadblock or other issue that we should take into consideration.
And what then appeals process, if any, does the worker have once you've made this determination?
So we have a process in our app where a delivery worker is notified both at the point of the complaint and when they get to the point of deactivation. And at both of those moments, they can input into the app videos, photos, their own story. There's a place where they can write things in, any other context that they think would be helpful. We also have direct communication with LDU, similar to the process that we have with IDG, although much less formal at this point, but they're able to submit cases for additional review as well.
Can you share examples of that with the committee so that we can, what I'm trying to get to is we've got very disparate testimony here. So I really want to see examples of how this is working in practice so that this committee, can make a much more informed analysis of this. So I'm interested in the communication you have with the worker when you're deactivating, particularly for this, let's call it safety reason. That particular one is the one that's like really concerning me because we just have so many complaints about road safety, street safety, that these two things are on a collision course. So I'm really interested particularly in that, but we want any kind of evidence you have of how you're communicating with workers. What exactly is this appeals process?
Yes, absolutely. I'll get that for you.
Okay, thank you. Do you have questions? Councilmember Brewer has some questions.
Yeah, we heard earlier about the time frame of months before people get an answer when contacting the apps. Can you respond to that? Because obviously, if there's a appeal process that you have, it should go quite quickly, yes or no. But we heard earlier that it takes months and no answer sometimes.
Yeah, I heard that too, and that was surprising to me. I can say that should not be how it is, at least on Uber's platform, and I'm going to look into that. I pulled data on the driver's side for Member Krishnan's bill, and in that case, 70% of cases are resolved, meaning a final decision, within 7 days. I will be happy to pull similar data on the delivery side, but I would imagine it's around the same.
Okay, and you'll get back to the committee with that information?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
And I'm now going to call the next panel. Thank you. Okay. Nadia Marin Molina, Daniel Ocampo, Baravi Desai. If you could please come down, thank you.
You may begin. I'm temporarily Chair Menon.
Chair Menon, members of the committee, my name is Daniel Ocampo, and I'm a lawyer at the National Employment Law Project, NELP, here in New York, and I'm here to testify in support of 1332. App-based delivery workers keep New York City running every day, but the companies that rely on their labor have avoided complying with basic workplace laws by classifying them as independent contractors. Thanks obviously to action from the City Council and the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection, we now have some of the strongest standards for app-based workers in the country. But as we've heard extensively, delivery workers are still routinely deactivated without reason, notice, or a right to appeal. Intro 1332 offers a proven solution, extending New York City's successful just cause law for fast food workers to app-based delivery workers. It would require delivery companies to lay out written deactivation policies, engage in progressive discipline, and then give 14 days notice before deactivating them, or in the case of bona fide economic layoffs, 120 days notice. The company would then bear the burden of proving that that was for cause. These common sense protections would be enforced by the DCWP's Office of Labor and Policy Standards, which obviously has an excellent proven record of enforcing the city's labor standards, especially for this workforce. And I'd urge the City Council to pass this important bill. I'd also echo the testimony from the department about the importance of requiring severance pay as well, not just because that would make a huge difference for these workers, but also would make enforcement obviously much easier for the agency. So with that, I'd close and thank you to the committee.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Hi, my name is Nadia Marin Molina. I'm here on behalf of Endilon, which is the National Day Labor Organizing Network, and here to offer our support for Intro 1332 for deactivation protection. Endilon's mission is to improve the lives of day laborers, migrants, and low-wage workers across the country, and we build leadership and power among those facing injustice. We're here in support of the thousands of deliveristas who are the workers who are carrying the health and well-being of the city along with them on their bicycles. They're bringing food to New Yorkers every day through heat, rain, and snow, and are part of the vast network of workers without whom the city would not run. Despite having their work recognized correctly as essential, they've still had to fight against low wages, wage theft, or no wages, hazardous working conditions, lack of benefits, assault on the streets, and criminalization over traffic issues. And now, after a successful campaign to establish minimum pay, they're facing lockouts and deactivation. The app companies are changing the algorithm and arbitrarily deactivating these workers who are fighting for their rights without any process. Because the algorithm is prioritizing speed, it's encouraging workers to take risks. The proposed legislation takes a common sense approach, and we support it. We know that app companies are getting rich from the labor provided by these workers. $4.1 billion in revenue from Uber Eats, DoorDash, $3.3 billion, Instacart, $914 million, all in the second quarter of 2025. So we stand in solidarity with the deliveristas and urge you as council members to do the same. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Baravi Desai. I'm the executive director of the 28,000-member New York Taxi Workers Alliance. We represent drivers across this industry. The majority of our members work for either yellow cabs, Uber, or Lyft. We are in proud support with the deliveristas and for this bill, Intro 1332. You ask any worker in this economy, whether it's drivers or delivery workers, when they talk about their economic issues, it's two sides of one coin. On one side, it's about pay, the right to earn a dignified living for every single trip or delivery, and on the other is about job security. Deactivations is a sword that hangs on the necks of workers. And these are workers, and I heard a previous speaker from the business side say that this law is more modeled for, I guess W-2 workers. But the reality is, for workers like deliveristas who pay for the capital expenses of going to work every day, they begin every day at a negative. They have paid out expenses that they need to earn back on before they take $1 home for themselves through a very high-risk, dangerous, and literally back-breaking job. If anything, this bill for just cause is even more necessary for this workforce, which has no other protections and bears all of the risks. During COVID, across this city, people clapped their hands and were grateful for the work of deliveristas. Well, the dangerous conditions that they work under, they've continued past the pandemic. We owe the brothers and sisters who do this hard job the very basic decency of job security, that they're not treated as second-class citizens. They have just cause, independent appeal, and the right to know that they have real job security. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you to this panel. Questions? Okay. Thank you very much. I'll now call the next panel, Sheriff Traore, Mizkal Hossain, Dalwar Hussain, actually there are two people listed on here, and Muhammad Alam, Nazrul Islam. Yes, that's it. Okay, thanks. I'll talk to you later. So, thanks so much. Oh, congratulations. Thank you. I appreciate your help. Okay. Please begin.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sheriff Traore. I'm a long-time delivery driver in New York City. I've been doing delivery for the last almost 8 years. And I have something important to say about what these these two people from Uber right now, they just show us a sign of not caring about us. Like everybody just saw that they just finished talking and they just left. They don't wait to listen to us. What are we gonna say? They just finished what they have to say and just left. Right? And this is not fair. And also, I'm talking on behalf of everybody, on behalf of my colleagues. Our job is very important in this city. Like, just imagine a day without a delivery person in this city will be a total chaos. Because I know that workers who work in the corporate and everything, they're going to be a line up on the restaurant, waiting hours and hours without having the chance to return to their jobs on time. And us working, we should be respected. Because I remember back during COVID-19, we were the hero of this city. We were working and everybody was cheering and everybody was happy because we were doing our best to really provide a good service to this community. But now, I don't know if it's just something else, because they're making us look like we're nothing anymore, because we're working hard, we're providing for our family, right? Under like some circumstances, weather, like snowing, raining, we're always outside, trying our best, to deliver the right thing for our community. But I don't know why.
Thank you. I'm just going to ask you to wrap up, please. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Who wants to speak next? If you could just press the button and it'll turn red.
Nazrul Islam is having problem reading, so I'm going to read his testimony.
Okay,
in
great.
English,
Thank you.
Okay? So, good afternoon, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nazrul Islam, and I have been working with Grubhub for the last 10 years in downtown Brooklyn. I was recently fired by Grubhub after being unfairly accused of fraudulently accessing or using a second delivery account. The reality these companies don't understand is that we often have to use two phones to work long shifts from early morning to late at night. I appealed my deactivation, but it was denied. The system reviewed my case and stood by their decision to fire me without giving me a real opportunity to appeal or prove that the accusation was false. I was deactivated without cause, without notice, and without a fair process. Many delivery workers, including myself, rely on this job to support our families. We work long hours under difficult and sometimes dangerous conditions. Losing this job unjustly is devastating for my family and our livelihood. This is why I'm asking for a fair process and strong deactivation protection. I respectfully urge every elected official who represent our communities to stand with delivery workers. Intro 1332 would ensure that no worker can be fired without cause, notice, or the ability to appeal. Please pass this law to protect delivery workers, our families, and our ability to earn a living. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair and member committees. My name is Nazmul Hassan. I have been living in the Bronx, and past 3 years I am working for the Grubhub past 2 years. On August 21, I was deactivated my Grubhub for taking too long to complete deliveries without being given the chance to appeal the explain. That day I got into an accident during heavy rain. I waited to the rain to slow down, and I could safely finish my delivery. I even called the customer service to explain, and I spoke with the customer directly, who understood what I was going through. But instead of the understanding, the company punished me by taking away my job without giving me any opportunity to defend myself. I'm the premium driver by Grubhub, the highest rating you can have. I have completed the 5,000 deliveries. I have worked through rain, snow, and all kinds of weather. I had 2 bikes stolen while I working. Every time I invested in getting another bike so I could keep providing for my family and continue delivery from Grubhub. Instead of the recognition, their sacrifice we make on the street, Grubhub punished me. They are deactive without warning, without reason, and without any appeal. When I appeal, they are, I think it's the robotically, they are the answer, unfortunately, we are reactive your account. Grubhub was only my job. Now I am employment and struggling to pay rent, and the landlord, they are threatening, and even because I have fallen behind on my payments, I don't know how.
Okay, I'm just going to ask you to wrap up, please. Oh, okay, and submit your testimony to the sergeant, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much to this panel.
Excuse me. May I add one more thing?
Oh, okay, we try to stick to the 2 minutes because we respect everyone's time, so we really don't
Just
deviate
be quick,
from-
just like 1 second.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, could you please, please help us survive in this city. With your voice, you're gonna make us be like better people, and we're gonna get our job back, because what these companies are doing to us is not fair.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so
We
much.
really appreciate your testimony. We appreciate you taking the time to be here and how strongly you feel about this. So thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Very much appreciated. Okay, I'm going to call the next panel, which is Delwar Hussain, Sana Joy, Iman Hassan and Rabiul Hassan. Yeah, okay.
Hello, my name is Delwar Hossain. আমার নাম দেলোয়ার হোসেন। আমি গত 1 বছর ধরে বনসে কাজ করি, এখানে গাওয়াবের কাজ করছি। আমি আজ এখানে এসেছি আমার সমর্থন জানাতে, তো যাতে এমন আইন পাস হয় যা মতে আমার শ্রমিক ন্যায্য আপিল এবং সুযোগ এবং অন্যায়ভাবে চাকরিচ্যুত হওয়ার আমার লক্ষ্য করবে। তো আমি প্রিমিয়াম কর্মী এবং আমি দীর্ঘ সময় ধরে কাজ করি। আমি সকাল 8টা থেকে এবং পর্যন্ত বৃষ্টি এবং তুষারপাত, সাইকেল চুরি এবং অপরাধের মাধ্যমে অনেক দিন এবং আমার ঝুঁকি নিয়ে আমি কাজ করি এবং রয়েছে এবং প্রতিদিন ডেলিভারি গ্রহণ করছি এবং পেশাদারভাবে এবং কঠোর পরিশ্রমের সাথে। এবং আমি কারণ ব্যাখ্যা প্রমাণ হিসাবে কোনো চাকরিচ্যুত কোনো প্রমাণ হিসাবে ওরা আমাকে প্রয়োগ করেনি। তো আমি আপনাদের কাছে অনুরোধ যে আমাকে ওরা যে কারণে আমার চাকরিচ্যুত করছে, তো এটা আমার ন্যায্যতারভাবে আমার আইডিটা ফেরত এনে দেয়, এটার জন্য আমি আকুল দাবি জানাচ্ছি। আমি পাশাপাশি আমি বলছি যে আমি অনেক 40 থেকে 45টা আমি করছি, ওদেরকে আমি মেল পাঠাইছি, কিন্তু ওরা আমার মেলের সেম একটা লিজেন্ডই দেয়। সো আমি ওদেরকে একটা কথা বললে ওরা আমাকে অটোমেটিক সবসময় একটা কথাই বলে। সো আমি এটার ন্যায্য কোনো সমাধান পাচ্ছি না। তো তার জন্য আমি এখানে আসা যে আমার এটা কীভাবে আপনারা আমার পক্ষে জিনিসটা করে দিতে পারেন, তার জন্য এখানে আমার আসা।
I'm going to translate in English. Good afternoon, Chair and Member Committee. My name is Delwar Hossain. I have been living in the Bronx for the past years and working with Graham here in the Bronx. I'm here today to ask your support in passing law that will give workers like me a fair chance to appeal in and protect us from being unfair fire. I'm a premium worker. I work long hours from 8 until midnight through rain, snow, and while facing by theft and street crimes. These are risks that we're taking every day because we are one of the street doing this job. I have accepted every delivery and worked hard to do my job professionally, yet I was deactivated without any reason, explanation, or opportunity to provide evidence or appeal. Since losing my job, I have been unable to pay rent and have struggled to find new work. This was my only job, and it was the only way I could support myself. This is why I support Intro 1332. We need the activation protection to defend our jobs, dignity, and our families. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and the member of the community. My name is MD Hussain. I've been working with GrabUp since 2022. Recently, GrabUp deactivated my account without any notice. They claim that I had this second account. The contract is to my information, but that is not true. I ever had the only one account because of the suddenly deactivation. My was jobless for 2 months. I was deactivation. I had not the income to the struggle to and the pay for the basic experience myself and my family, and there was no the chance that to explain or the appeal. The decision to know on the from is the company contact and me and the give me any real and the ways that defend myself. That ways we need to strong the protection for delivery worker. We needed to the clear rules and then the prevent unfair deactivation, and we deserve the right to the fair process before the losing our job. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good afternoon, Chair and member of the community. My name is MD Imran Hussain, and I will full-time delivery worker here in the New York City. I am here today to speak about the deactivation of my account, which happened 2 months ago without any clear explanation from the platform. Since then, I have been unable to work, and I have received no meaningful communication about why this happened or how to resolve it. This account was my only source of income. I related on entirely to support myself and family, covering rent, plot, transportation, and other basic needs. Since deactivation, I have faced serious financial hardship, the stress of not knowing when or if I will be able to work again has been overwhelming. I have contacted the company multiple times by email and phone, but I have received no real answer. I was not told why I was deactivation, and I was never given an opportunity to appeal or share my side of the story. I have always followed the platform rules, and I have only ever used one account. I believe I deserve a fair process and the change to continue earning a living. I respectfully ask the community to look into my case and to advocate for stronger protection for workers like me so that we are not left in dark, unable to work, and without recourse. No one should lose their livelihood without explain or the opportunity to respond. Thank you for your time and attention.
Great. Thank you very much to the panel. I'll now call the next panel, Hassan Shavu, Connor Spence, Sheriksal Islam Sharif, Jose Yos. If you could all please come down. Thank you. Okay, please begin. Thank
Buenas tardes, presidenta y miembro del comité. Mi nombre es José Yos. Soy líder de los Deliveristas Unidos y miembro orgulloso de Worker Justice Project. He vivido en East Harlem desde 2021. Comencé trabajando en restaurantes, lavando platos y haciendo entregas. Y luego comencé a trabajar con DoorDash. Desde entonces he trabajado exclusivamente como repartidor. Y ahora hago entregas para aplicaciones como Grab, Relay, DoorDash y Uber. Soy padre de 4 hijos y todos los días trabajo duro para darles oportunidades que yo nunca tuve. Este trabajo no es fácil, pero continúo porque quiero que mis hijos tengan una vida mejor. Hoy estoy aquí para apoyar el Intro 1332 porque las aplicaciones no se preocupan por nosotros. No les importa los peligros que enfrentamos en las calles. No les importa si perdemos los trabajos que nos permiten pagar la renta y poner comida en la mesa para nuestras familias. Enfrentando tipos de desafíos. Yo sufrí un accidente mientras hacía entregas y todavía estoy en terapia para recuperarme. Pero las aplicaciones nunca preguntaron por mi salud ni si estaba bien. Para ellas somos reemplazables. Si un trabajador se lesiona o incluso muere, rápidamente encuentran a alguien más para ocupar nuestro lugar. Esa es la realidad que vivimos todos los días. Por eso estoy aquí, porque somos seres humanos, no máquinas. Somos trabajadores y merecemos dignidad. Muchos repartidores están perdiendo sus trabajos sin causa justa, sin aviso y sin ninguna manera de apelar o explicar los desafíos que enfrentamos. Esta ley, Intro 1332,
Okay, please submit the testimony, yeah? Or are you going to translate? Either way is fine, it's whatever your preference is.
Good afternoon, Chair and member of the committee. My name is Jose Yos. I'm a leader of the Los Deliveristas Unidos, and I'm a proud member of the Workers' Justice Project. I have been living in East Harlem since 2021. I started working in restaurants, doing dishwashing and deliveries, and later began working with DoorDash. Since then, I have worked only as delivery workers, and now I deliver for apps like Grubhub, Relay, DoorDash, and Uber. I'm the father of 4 children, and every day I work hard to give them the opportunity I never had. This work is not easy, but I continue because I want my children to have a better life. I'm here today in support Intro 1332 because the apps don't care about us. They don't care about the dangers we face on the streets. They don't care if we lose the jobs that allow us to pay rent and put food on the table for our families. We face all kinds of challenges. I was injured in an accident while making deliveries, and I'm still going through therapy to recover. But the apps never once asked about my health or if I was doing okay. To them, we're replaceable. If one worker gets injured or even dies, they will quickly find someone else to take our place. That is the reality we live with every day. This is why I'm here, because we are human beings, no machines. We are workers, and we deserve dignity. Too many delivery workers are losing their jobs without just cause, without notice, and without any way to appeal or explain the challenges we face. This law, Intro 1332, will give us the protections we need to defend our jobs and our dignity. It will make sure that delivery workers who do one of the city's most dangerous jobs finally have the right to appeal and protect ourselves from unfair deactivation. I'm a part of Los Deliveristas Unidos because I believe we deserve rights and protections like any other workers. I ask you to stand with us and support this introduction.
আজ কথা বলার জন্য সুযোগ দেওয়ার জন্য ধন্যবাদ। আমার নাম মোহাম্মদ হোসাইন। আমি নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটিতে একজন ফুড ডেলিভারি কর্মী। 4 জুন সকাল 8:56 কোনো আগাম সতর্ক ছাড়াই গ্রাবাব অ্যাকাউন্ট নিষ্ক্রিয় ডিঅ্যাক্টিভেট করা হয়। কোম্পানির দাবি ছিল আমি নাকি একটি ডেলিভারির সময় নিয়েছিলাম। আমি এক রেট পেয়েছি, কিন্তু বাস্তবে যা ঘটেছে তা ছিল একেবারে সাধারণ এবং নিয়ন্ত্রণের বাইরে। ডেলিভারির আগের দিন আমার বাইকের ব্যাটারি হঠাৎ করে কাজ বন্ধ করে দেয়। আমি সঙ্গে সঙ্গে একটি দোকান নিয়ে গিয়ে তা পরিবর্তন করি, যার ফলে অল্প সময়ের জন্য অর্ডার ডেলিভারিতে বিলম্ব হয়। আমার কাছে বাইকের দোকানে ব্যাটারির বদলে ছবি আছে। আমি স্পষ্ট ব্যাখ্যা করে এবং প্রমাণ দেওয়ার জন্য আজও আমার অ্যাকাউন্ট নিষ্ক্রিয় করা হয়েছে। এই ঘটনার আগে আমার বিরুদ্ধে কোনো অভিযোগ ছিল না। আমি সব সময় সততা ও পেশাদারি এবং নিষ্ঠার সঙ্গে আমার কাজ করেছি। এই হঠাৎ নিষ্ক্রিয় আমাকে আমার অ্যাকাউন্ট এবং আয়ের উৎস থেকে বিচ্ছিন্ন করা হয়েছে। মাত্র 1 সপ্তাহের মধ্যে আমি ইলেকট্রিক বিল পরিশোধ ব্যর্থ হতে শুরু করি। এই পরিস্থিতি আমার পরিবারের জন্য চরম এবং অনিশ্চয়তা তৈরি করেছে। দুঃখজনকভাবে আমার গল্পটি অন্যান্য নয়, গোটা শহর জুড়ে এবং ডেলিভারি কর্মী প্রতিনিয়ত এই আতঙ্কে থাকে। আমি শ্রদ্ধার সঙ্গে কমিটির অনুরোধ জানাই, অনুগ্রহ করে বিলটি পাস করুন। এই আইন বর্তমান ব্যবস্থা একটি ন্যূনতম ন্যায় বিচার এবং দায়িত্ববোধ প্রতিষ্ঠিত করবে, যা এখন খুব বেশি ডেলিভারি কর্মী অনিরাপদে নিষিদ্ধ করা হয়েছে। আমার কথা শোনার জন্য নিউ ইয়র্ক সিটি ডেলিভারি কর্মীদের পাশে থাকার জন্য ধন্যবাদ।
Good afternoon, Chair Julie Mene, and member of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Hussein, and I'm food delivery workers here in New York City. On June 4th, my Grubhub account was deactivated without any prior warning. The company claimed that I had fraudulently increased my engaged pay during a delivery, but what actually happened was simply and out of my control. During a delivery the day before, the battery of my e-bike suddenly stopped working. I had to find a shop and get it replaced right away, which caused a brief delay in my completing the order. I even have photos from the bike shop showing the replacement. Despite submitting this proof and clearly explaining what happened, my account remains deactivated. I have never had any violations before this incident. I have always done my job honestly, professionalism, and dedication. This sudden deactivation cut me off from my only source of income. Without just 1 week, I began falling behind rent and utility bills. The stress and uncertainty this has caused for me and my family have been overwhelming. Unfortunately, my story is not unique. Across the city, many delivery workers live in constant fear that their accounts will be shut down without explanation, without evidence, and without any opportunity to respond. For immigrant workers like myself, who depend on this job to survive and support our families, this lack of protection is devastating. That is why I strongly support the Food Delivery Workers Deactivation Protection Bill. This legislation is not asking for special treatment. It is asking for fairness, due process before someone's livelihood is taken away. Workers should have the right to understand the reason for the activation, to present evidence, and to appeal wrongly and unjust decisions. No one should be punished for things beyond their control, like a bike breaking down during a delivery. I respectfully urge the committee to pass this bill. It would bring basic fairness and accountability to the system that currently leaves too many workers vulnerable and voiceless.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Next speakers are MD Hassan, Pedro Rojas, Jeff Elmer. Okay, please begin.
Do you want to go?
Muy buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Pedro Isaías. Llevo trabajando con DoorDash aproximadamente 5 años. Soy parte de Libristas Unidos y miembro del proyecto de justicia laboral. Hoy estoy para alzar la voz contra las desactivaciones injustas con las compañías como DoorDash. Está realizando, en mi caso personal, me ha desactivado 4 veces cada vez que me piden mi información. Yo la entrego inmediato, cumpliendo con todo que le soliciten para poder seguir trabajando. Sin embargo, cada vez que DoorDash hace una actualización, vuelve a desactivarse de manera injusta. Por eso hoy levanto mi voz y necesitamos para una protección real contra las desactivaciones. Y que por fin la compañía nos valore como lo que somos, personas trabajadoras, no robots. Este trabajo es mi sustento, depende de mi familia y el pago de la renta bill es todo lo necesario para salir adelante siempre. Ha sido responsable con mi labor, siguiendo las reglas, lineamientos de la compañía para dar un buen servicio a cumplir con los clientes necesitan. He trabajado bajo la lluvia, el nieve y calor máximo extremo, siempre dando lo máximo esfuerzo para hacer bien mi trabajo. Gracias por el apoyo. Esperamos que la compañía nos escuche y nos reconozca como trabajadores esenciales. Muchas gracias.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pedro Isaías. I've been working with DoorDash for about 5 years. and I'm a proud member of the Libristas Unidos and the Workers' Justice Project. I'm here today to raise my voice against the unfair deactivation that companies like DoorDash are carrying out. In my personal case, my account has been deactivated 4 times. Every time they ask me for information, I respond immediately and provide everything they request in order to continue working. But each time DoorDash rolls out an update, my account is deactivated again, without justification. That is why I'm speaking up today. We need real protections against unjust deactivations and for the company to finally recognize us for who we are, hard-working people, no robots. This job is my livelihood. It's how I support my family, pay rent, cover bills, and survive in the city. I've always been responsible, follow the company's rule, and work hard to provide good service and meet customer needs. I've worked through rain, snow, and extreme heat, always giving my best to do my work well. Thank you for your support, and hopefully this law protection is going to be passed very soon to protect all the delivery workers in the city of New York.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Elmer. I'm a proud constituent of Councilmember Gail Brewer, and I'm here in support of Council Intro 1332. As you might have guessed, I'm not a deliverista. I'm retired now, but in a prior life, I ran the Bureau of Labor Law under 2 New York City controllers and later managed the team that monitored labor standards, wage standards at the School Construction Authority. In both jobs, we came up against bad contractors who ripped off workers and deprived them of their rightful legal prevailing wages. But I've never seen the level of exploitation that exists in the world of app-based delivery services. I've spoken to delivery workers and their advocates and reviewed the often minimal payments that these couriers receive for their hard-earned labor. And what a racket these multi-million-dollar corporations are engaged in. Worst of all is when a delivery worker is seemingly randomly locked out by some mysterious app algorithm and has no recourse. That's why this legislation is so important. I'm going to skip over so in the interest of time. The proposed legislation could change all of these problems. It should be noted that other cities, states, and even continents, app platform workers have protections against seemingly arbitrary deactivations. I've done some research. In Seattle, the 2023 app-based worker deactivation rights ordinance requires companies to provide 14-day notice before deactivating workers. Also, they have to base deactivations on reasonable policies and supply records justifying the decision. With respect to rideshare, which is a very similar industry, a relatively new Colorado state law specifies how a company can deactivate a driver from its digital platform and mandates that app companies create internal account procedures by which a driver can challenge deactivation and remedy the violation. And as was stated before, the Taxi and Limousine Commission approved new rules recently that aim to keep these apps. Well, just one last thing. The European Council passed legislation last year requiring, basically banning robo-firing of workers via algorithm. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and then please just submit your written testimony. Thank you very much. Thank you to this panel. Okay, our next panel is Abdul Khanfi, Arafat Hossein Arif, Jengahar Alam. Sorry, this is very hard to read, this card. I believe, apologies if I'm not reading this correctly, Ili Molazam Beta. It's hard to read this. I'm not sure if that's a B. Are any of those names here? No? We can come back. We'll at the end, we're going to read all names again who did not come forward to testify. Okay, next
Chair
panel.
Committee, did just let me know that a few members of the Workers' Justice Pray, they left the room to pray.
Oh, okay.
They
Okay.
will
Well,
come
we're
back
going to
at some
read
point.
all the names that didn't at the end. We always
Thank
go
you
back.
very much.
MD Murshid Alam, Shao Liang, MD Mahin Udin. Is that it? think it's Melon Chowdhury. Okay, please begin. Just hit the button. Thank you.
Okay. Hello everyone. 我的名字叫蒙巴利，在这个城市生活了15年，做平台送餐员有7、8年，在 Uber Eats 账号也有4年多了，主要在曼哈顿下城送餐和替客人购物。今年年初，我的 Uber Eats 账号被停止了，上不了线，发了邮件给客服，但也没有回复。通过我跟我的同行沟通，把我的运输工具原来是踩电单车的，改成开车，才恢复了账号，最近才恢复。但新的账号要从最普通的开始做，所以呢，它的停止我的账号，使我的收入停止，也降低了我的生活品质。我希望通过这个法案，能让我自由的在这里无忧无虑地更好的、美好的生活。谢谢。
I'll translate for him. Hello everyone, I'm Mengba Li. I've lived in New York for 15 years and have been a delivery driver for 7 or 8 years. I've had an Uber Eats account for over 4 years, primarily delivering food and shopping for customers in Midtown and Lower Manhattan. Earlier this year, my Uber Eats account was deactivated for no apparent reason, and I couldn't access it. I emailed customer service but received no response. After communicating with colleagues I know, I switched to driving a car mode as a mode of my transportation and was able to get my account back. However, I needed to start from the most basic level with a new account. Motorcycles are convenient for working in Manhattan. The streets are narrow, so bikes are can easily navigate. They are also easier to park, allowing me to quickly deliver items for customers. The platform's unfair account deactivation has had a significant impact on my life. Deactivating my account means stopping my income, and my life has become harder. I hope that the passage of this bill will allow me to continue my wonderful life freely and without worries.
大家好，我叫邵亮，我是一名在 GrabHub 工作的送餐员。我在纽约生活了14年，做了很多服务工作，为这个城市付出了很多脑洞。我从2021年开始成为平台的送餐员，我主要在南布鲁克林送餐。今年8月17号，我的 GrabHub 账号被停掉，平台说我违规，把我账号封掉。一般情况下，高峰期我们要很长的等待出餐时间。那天餐馆很多订单，我等了半个小时才在餐馆取到订单。我尝试在平台申诉，但平台无视我的申诉，直接把我的账号给封掉了。送餐现在是我的主要收入，是我支持家庭的主要收入来源。现在平台不公正的把我的账号封掉，一下子就断掉了我的经济来源。我无法在纽约生活，平台这样霸道的行为对我们打工阶层影响很大。希望法律可以给我们保障权益，让我们安心的在这里生活。Thank you.
I will translate for him. Hi everyone, my name is Shao Liang. I am a delivery worker with GrabHub. I have been living in New York for 14 years. Doing many service jobs and contribute a lot to this city. Since 2021, I have been working as a platform delivery worker, mainly delivering in South Brooklyn. On August 17, my GrabHub account was deactivated. The platform claimed that I violated the rules and permanently deactivated my account. But in fact, I did not break any rules. Normally, during break hours, we often have to wait a long time for orders to be prepared. That day, the restaurant had many orders, and I wait half an hour before I could pick up the food. I tried to appeal to the platform, but they ignored my appeal and directly shut down my account. Delivery work is my main source of income, the primary way I support my family. But unfairly deactivating my account, the platform suddenly cut off my livelihood, making it impossible for me to survive in New York City. The platform's unfair behavior has a huge impact on us working people. I hope that the law can protect our livelihoods so that we, the working class, can live here with dignity. Our labor deserves much more respect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to this panel. I'll now call the next panel. Thank you. Okay. MD Faraz Ahmed, Mohammed Tajal Islam, MD Al Faisal, Bilal Hussein.
Yeah. So,
I'm going to provide a folder with all the
okay.
and also sending the PDF of the copy.
So, on behalf of him, my brother, so can you provide his documents to check for those people?
Okay, you're going to do it? Okay.
হ্যালো, আমার নাম মিলন চৌধুরী। আমি গত 2 বছর ধরে ব্রন্সে বসবাস করছি এবং 1 বছরের বেশি সময় ধরে আমি গ্রাবাবের সাথে ডেলিভারি কর্মী হিসেবে কাজ করছি। আমার 3টা সন্তান আছে যারা আমার উপর নির্ভরশীল। আমার পরিবারের ভরণ পোষণ একমাত্র এই ডেলিভারি কাজ করি আমি করে থাকি। আমি দীর্ঘ সময় ধরে কাজ করি, প্রায় এসে সকাল 6টা থেকে রাত 11টা পর্যন্ত। সপ্তাহে 6 বা 7 দিন আমি ডেলিভারি কর্মীদের মতোই কাজ করি। অনেক কষ্টের মুখোমুখি হয়েছি। আমার বাইক চুরি হয়েছে, ডাকাতির শিকার হয়েছি, তুষার ঝড়, ভারী বৃষ্টি, এমনকি আহত অবস্থায়ও আমি খাবার পৌঁছে দিয়েছি। তারপরেও আমি কঠোর পরিশ্রম করেছি এবং অর্জন করেছি প্রিমিয়াম ডেলিভারি ড্রাইভার কর্মীর মর্যাদা, যা সর্বোচ্চ রেটিং হিসেবে কাজ করে। কিন্তু এত কিছু করেও গ্রাহক আমার প্রতি কোনো মূল্য দেয়নি। গত জুন মাসে এক বৃষ্টির রাতে প্রায় 9টার সময় ব্রন্সে খাবার পৌঁছে দিতে গিয়ে আমাকে একটি গাড়ি ধাক্কা দেয়। আমার অ্যাম্বুলেন্স করে হাসপাতালে নিয়ে যাওয়া হয় এবং আমি 2 দিন ভর্তি ছিলাম। আমার নিরাপত্তার বিষয়ে উদ্বিগ্ন হওয়ার পরিবর্তে গ্রাহক আমাকে শাস্তি দেয় এবং আমার অ্যাকাউন্টটি ডিঅ্যাক্টিভ করে দেয়। আমার চাকরি হারানো এবং আমাকে ভেঙে দিয়েছে। আমি হতাশায় ডুবে গিয়েছি। ভাড়া দিতে এবং আমার সন্তানের খাওয়াতে আমি সংগ্রাম করছি। আমার স্বাস্থ্যের অবনতি হচ্ছে। আমি হৃদরোগে আক্রান্ত হয়েছি এবং আমার এখন 25শে সেপ্টেম্বর আমার হার্টের অস্ত্রোপচার হবে। এত কিছুর মধ্যেও কোনো কাজ নেই, আমার কোনো আয় নেই। আমি আমার কাজ ফিরে পাওয়ার জন্য আপিলের সুযোগ পাইনি। আজ আমি আপনাদের কাছে সাহায্যের আবেদন নিয়ে এসেছি। আমি আমার কাজ ফিরে পেতে চাই এবং গ্রাহক আমার মতো কর্মীদের ন্যায্য সুযোগ দিক। আমি সবসময় বিশ্বস্ত থেকেছি এবং কোনো বিশেষ সুবিধা চাই নেই, শুধু ন্যায্যতা মর্যাদা চাচ্ছি। মিলন চৌধুরী। মিলন চৌধুরী। মিলন MI মিলন চৌধুরী।
Testimony of Milon Chaudhuri. Good afternoon, Chair and member of the committee. My name is Milon Chaudhuri. I have been living in the Bronx for the past 2 years. For over a year, I have worked for delivery worker with Grahab. I'm also the father of 3 children who depend on me. Delivery work has been the only way I can provide for my family. I work long days, often from 6 in the morning to 10 p.m., 6 or even 7 days a week. Like as many delivery workers, I face many challenges. My e-bike has been stolen. I've been robbed. I have delivery in the snow and heavy rain, and even while injured. Still, I work hard and earn the status of premium delivery workers, the highest rating you can achieve. My records show 100% order commitment, 96% on-time merchant deliveries, and 97% schedule commitment, with more than 7,000 deliveries completed. That means I accepted every order, delivered on time, and made myself available whenever the company needed me. But even with this record, my loyalty and hard work mean nothing to Grubhub. In June, while delivering food in the Bronx on a rainy day, around 9 p.m., I was struck by a car. I was taken by ambulance to the hospital and hospitalized for 2 days. Instead of supporting me or showing concern for myself, Grubhub punished me by deactivating my account, fired me from the only job I have. Losing my job has devastated me. I fell into depression. I struggled to pay my rent and to feed my children. My health has worsened. I even suffered a heart attack, and now I'm scheduled for surgery on September 25th. Through all of this, I have had no job, no income, and no chance to appeal or get back the work I had given everything to. I'm here today to ask for your support. I want my job back, and I want Grubhub to give me and others like me a fair opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm now going to call the next panel. Youssef Sanalago, Sayem Hassan, Sheikh Aziz Rissan, Mohammade Bontalga,
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the community. My name is Sheikh Aziz Rishan, and I am full-time delivery worker here in New York City. I am here today to speak about the deactivation of my account, which happened approximately 2 months ago without any clear explanation from the platform. Since then, I have been unable to work, and I have received no meaningful communication about why this happened or how to resolve it. This account was my only source of income. I relied on it entirely to support myself and my family, covering rent, food, transportation, and other basic needs. Since the deactivation, I have faced serious financial hardship. The state of not knowing then or if I will be able to work again has been overwhelming. I have connected to company multiple times by mail and phone, but I have received no real answer. I was not told why I was reactivated and was never given an opportunity to appeal or share my side of the story. I have always followed the platform's rules, and I have only ever used one account. I believe I deserve a fair process and the chance to continue earning to living. I respectfully ask this community to look into my case and evidence for stronger protections for workers like me so that we are not left in the dark, unable to work. And
okay, I'm just going to ask you to wrap up, please.
Thank you for time and attention.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay. Hi, ma'am. I'm working almost 2 years is over platform. Then I working really good time, and I also working the raining and snow time. And I try to all my best this platform. Every moment, every second, I'm carefully every delivery and customer. And I also remember is the customer is first. I try to all my best in the road. But unnecessary is the Uber. My account is deactivation. Reason is the account sharing each other then. But this totally fake false allegation for me. I have a lot of problem. I also is just 2 weeks ago I accident the road. One car hit and run. I go also go the emergency road, and I have also police report, and I have a photo and hospital documentation. Everything I show the Uber, but he didn't believe. And I go also the IDZ, and also IDZ is a mail that is Uber. Uber also didn't reply. I'm trying to all my best is my account is feedback, but I afford my best. But last my account is deactivation is May 21. I'm now struggle last few months. I'm very struggle every moment, every second in my life. Also I struggle my family and my life, also rent and home, everything. Now my situation very disappointed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
আমার গাওয়া অ্যাকাউন্ট এমনিতে বন্ধ করে দিয়েছে তারা। আমি নাকি বেশি ইনকাম করি, ওরা নাকি আওয়ার হিসেবে আমাকে বেশি পেমেন্ট করতে হয়, এই কারণে আমার অ্যাকাউন্ট বন্ধ করে দিয়েছে। এটার কোনো রিজন ছাড়াই বন্ধ করে দিয়েছে আইডি। বলছে নাকি আমি অ্যাডজাস্ট পেয়ে বেশি নিই, এটা বলে আমার আইডি বন্ধ করে দিয়েছে। কিন্তু আমি লাস্ট উইক এত বেশি কাজ করিনি, $45 এরকম কাজ করেছি, তারা অটোমেটিক আইডি বন্ধ করে দিয়েছে কোনো রিজন ছাড়া। আমি নাকি অতিরিক্ত ইনকাম করেছি এই কথা বলে। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Okay.
We're going to transcribe that and provide it in a PDF document.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony. Okay, thank you. I will call the next panel. Rakibul Hassan, MD Farag Tanner, MD Jaladul Islam Naeem, Nazmul Hassan. Okay, are any of the names that I called able to testify? Okay, well, please begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and member of the committee. My name is Rakibul Hassan, and I have been working with GrabUp for the past 6 months. Last Friday, my account was deactivated without any prior warning, explanation, or notice of a violation. I received no communication from the platform to explain why this happened or what step I could take to resolve it. Since the deactivation, I have been under immense pressure. Delivery work is my only source of income. And without it, I am struggling to pay for basic expenses like rent, food, and transportation. This situation has cost me significant stress and has disputed my ability to support myself. I respectfully urge GrabUp to review and reinstate my account, and more importantly, to establish fair and transparent procedures for deactivation. Workers deserve to know why their accounts are being deactivated and to be given a fair chance to respond. We work hard to serve this city. We deserve basic fairness and the ability to keep earning a living. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call the next Okay. Fail Alahi, Muhammad Anwar Hussain, Nain Bahi, Christopher Leon Johnson. Any? And then I'm going to go back and read the names of people I've called who didn't. Okay. No, okay, so now I'm going to go back and read these names, and then I'm going to go to Zoom. Eli Moslemi Betta, Jangahir Alam, Arafat Hossan Arif, Abdul Khanfi, MD Hassan, Connor Spence, Shariaki Islam Sharif, Sana Gujai, Rabiul Hossan, MD Mahin Uddin, MD Murshid Alam, Bilal Hussan, MD Farvez Ahmed, Muhammad Tajal Islam, MD Al Faisal. If I've read your name, if you could, and you want to still testify, please come to the table. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to give you that. Okay, please begin.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Rabiul Hossain. My Uber account deactive. So I last food delivery April 20. When this time is rainy, 11:56 p.m. This time I delivery last food. So this time rainy too much. So I sick 1 month later. When I go in again the delivery. So Uber say one mail me this 20 May. One mail me my account is deactive. His problem is I asked the what is problem. He say is my account sharing. I say can't I do anything? Any people is my account sharer. I only my account I use. So he say I appeal May 27 also deny. May 29 appeal again deny. So now I don't have my account any job. So I ask, please Uber account, give me back. Thank you.
Okay, please begin. Thank you.
আমার নাম মোহাম্মদ কাজল হোসেন। আমি গত সপ্তাহে কাজ করেছিলাম। আমার গত সপ্তাহে আমার আইডিটা অফ করা হয়েছে। আমি তারা রিজন দিয়েছে আমাকে আমি নাকি একজনের ফুড দিই নাই, খাবার দেওয়া হয় নাই। আমি প্রত্যেকটা খাবারের ছবি তুলে পাঠাইতাম কাস্টমারকে এবং গ্রাহককে, কিন্তু আমার আইডি কেন অফ করা হয়েছে তারা এই রিজন দিয়েছে। এখন আমি খুব আমার ফ্যামিলি নিয়ে এবং আমি খুব সমস্যা আছি। আমার অ্যাকাউন্টটা ওপেন করে দেওয়া হোক, আমি যেন আবার কাজে ফিরে যেতে পারি, আমার ফ্যামিলি নিয়ে যেন আমি সচ্ছলতা বোধ করতে পারি। থ্যাংক ইউ।
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is MD Kasal Hossein, and I have been working with GrowHub since 2021. Last week, my account was suddenly deactivated based on a claim that I failed to deliver an order to a customer. This accusation is completely false. I have always completed my deliveries. I'm submitting proof of each one using the photo feature in the GrowHub app as required. Despite providing this evidence, Grubhub deactivated my account without a proper investigation. They took the customer's word at face value and gave me no chance to respond or defend myself. This decision has left me without work, unable to pay rent, and struggling to cover basic expenses for my family. This experience has been deeply unfair and incredibly stressful. I respectfully urge Grubhub to review my case and reinstate in my account. More importantly, I ask this committee to support strongly worker protections that require platforms to conduct fair investigation before deactivating workers. Delivery workers like me rely on this income to survive. We deserve transparency, the right to be heard, and protection from unjust deactivations. Thank you for your time and attention.
Great, thank you very much. I'm now going to go to Zoom for speakers who have signed up. Adama Ba.
You may begin.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Adama Ba. I'm the executive director of Africana, an immigrant organization that serves thousands of Black immigrants who work across New York City. Africana was founded because so many in our community, especially newly arrived African and Caribbean migrants, face language barriers, housing insecurity, and economic exploitation. For many of our members, app-based delivery work has been one of the only jobs available to support their family. It is hard, dangerous work, but it's also been a lifeline. And yet every week we hear our delivery workers in our community who have been deactivated from apps like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. There's no warning, there's no explanation, and no chance to appeal. One of our clients, whom I will call Client A, was in a traffic accident while delivering. He has proof of what happened, including receipts of the damaged items and a police report. Instead of understanding or support the app that deactivated him, he lost his only source of income overnight. The key issue is that these appeals are not transparent, not in multiple languages, and not accessible. For Black migrant workers who may not speak English or Spanish fluently, this creates a second barrier. Even if an appeal option exists, they cannot navigate it. That's why Intro 1332, the activation bill, is so important. It will require real due process, fair notice, and a right to appeal in a meaningful way. Workers are forced to take unsafe risks, biking through storms, rushing through traffic because missing one delivery might mean losing their source of income. This is not just, unfair, it's inhumane. Africana stands proudly with Los Deliberatas and demanding the passage of Intro 1332 because justice for delivery workers is justice for all immigrant workers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now, if we've inadvertently missed anyone who registered to testify today and has yet to be called, please speak with a sergeant, or if you are remote, use the Zoom hand function and you'll be called in the order that your hand has been raised. And I'm just going to read two additional names who signed up for Zoom, but we don't see them yet. Want to make sure they're not on. Raul Rivera, Christopher Leon Johnson. Okay, I really want to thank everyone who testified today. I think we had a really fulsome and productive hearing. We very much appreciate the testimony, and I'll now close the hearing. Thank you.